Hello everyone, welcome back to Nimsite. Today, as part of the Australia series, I'm going to talk about the estimated cost breakdown of PR in Australia. Now, I had done a video before this about my journey of getting PR in Australia. If you've not seen the video, you can see the link pop somewhere here. The video is available in both Hindi as well as English. Now, based on that and based on my research, I am trying to cover about how much it would cost you if you're looking for a PR in Australia. Now, I have divided this video into two parts. In the first part, I'm going to talk about points tested visas, that is visa subclass 189, 190, 491, where you need to accumulate points and then you are awarded PR based on if you satisfy a particular threshold that is going on for that particular occupation. So that's points tested visa. So if you're looking at that, you can check the first part. In the second part, I'll talk about the estimated cost if you're looking at employer-sponsored visas, where your employer needs to sponsor you for a nominated occupation. I'm going to cover that. So if you're interested in just that, you can skip to that part as well. So moving on to the video. So estimated costs for points tested visas. Now, for points tested visas, apart from the visa fees, etc., which I'll come to in a bit, all the other costs, I'll broadly, classify them in a group called others or miscellaneous costs. Now, there could be slight variations in this category based on, what are you taking in or what are you considering. So the other costs, number one is your English exam cost. Obviously, you would have to write English test if you want to claim points. Now, IELTS or PTE, they could cost you somewhere around 350 to 375 Australian dollars. Then you might write NAATI exam. Now, NAATI exam can cost you somewhere around $800. Then you might have to take up skills assessment. Now, skills assessment is usually done by different bodies in Australia. They usually assess your educational qualification, your work experience, etc., and they give you a positive assessment, yes, that this particular candidate can apply for this particular nominated occupation. So usually an assessment is required for most of the professions. Now, quoting ACS, which is like the body which does the assessment for IT sector, usually that assessment takes around 530 Australian dollars now. So that cost also you need to bear in mind. Now, like I said, this can vary depending on which body is assessing your particular occupation. Then you might have to take the medical exam. Now, medical exam takes about $400 per person. Now, if you have more applicants or if you have a child or a dependent, this cost would again multiply. Then police checks, including both Australian Federal Police check as well as the Indian Police check, it might cost you around 100 Australian dollars. Then agent fees. Now, agent fees can vary significantly. It can go from as low as $3,000 to it can go up to $5,000 as well in Australia for these points tested visas. So what they usually do is they divide into 2 or 3 installments. They while they are doing their paperwork, they take half of it, and when they've done your paperwork and when it's time, when you've actually got your invite, they'll take the rest installment. So usually that's how it works. So these are all the miscellaneous costs. Now, these could include some other costs like your master's degree and all. Obviously, we can't, I'm not putting it in this category because that's like your educational qualification. Although I would like to add that there is something called a professional year in Australia. That's like you get 5 points for it. International students normally go for it. So they, that's like a 1-year program where they teach you how to perform in a particular job or how you can be well equipped for profession, how you can grow professionally, etc. That usually costs around 10,000 Australian dollars as well. That is not for all the occupations, that's for some occupations like IT sector and accountancy, etc. And then finally you have the visa fees. Now this is unavoidable. You have to, obviously you have to definitely give this. So this is around 4,000 $240 if you are a primary applicant, and for secondary applicant it's around $2,020. So looking at all of these costs minus the professional year cost, you are looking at expenses of around 10,000 to 12,000 Australian dollars inclusive of your agent fees. Now this figures can vary depending on how much you're spending on agent fees, and if you're adding professional year also to this, you might have to add that as well. So this is a rough estimate of all the costs that I could think of. If I have missed something and if you know of that cost, please add it to the comments as well so that others can benefit out of it. So this was the rough estimate of points tested visas. In the next part, I'm going to talk about the employer-sponsored visas. Cost estimates for employer-sponsored visas. Now, employer-sponsored visas, as you know, employer needs to sponsor you. So the cost and the amount of money that you might shell out for this will actually depend on your employer. Like, of course, there are some unavoidable costs that you might have to directly give out from your pocket. But for all the other costs, they can usually work out some kind of a payment arrangement with you. For example, for my employer also, there was like a payment arrangement, that was happening between me and my employer, about 50% arrangement that had done. Now, this depends from employer to employer. You might have to pay the whole fees. They might pay some part of it. So either way, if you're getting a PR and if your employer is willing to sponsor you, it is always good because these visas are normally fast as well. But yeah, having said that, I would like to say now 189 visas are also being granted in huge numbers, and the processing has been really fast as well for them as well. So even that is good. So like I said, there could be an arrangement between your employer and you, but there is a fees that is given by the employer like fully. That's around 5,000 Australian dollars. That's called SAF levy fund. So depending on the revenue of your company, like if your company has a good enough revenue, they are supposed to pay a fees to the government. That's around 5,000 Australian dollars. Usually this fees is entirely given by the company. In this there won't be any arrangement, but in all the other costs you could think about some kind of an arrangement with your employer. So now I'll talk about the breakdown of what all things are included in this. So in this also you would of course have the agent fees. Now agent fees could be something that is employed by your organization itself. Usually companies have a dedicated immigration agent and immigration section to handle all these visas and all. At least my company did. So I had to pay the fees, whatever they told me, I had to pay that to them. That was around $4,000 was the professional fees that agent had charged for this particular visa. So like I said, but there was an arrangement between me and my company. So a percentage of it I had to give and the rest company would give. Then apart from this professional fees, there's something called lodgement fees. Now here also you might have ACS because skills assessment is a mandatory criteria for employer sponsored visa direct entry to PR. So like I said, ACS might charge you somewhere around 530 Australian dollars. So if you're doing by yourself, you might be charged by the agent just for the professional fees that they take for the PR. But usually agents, if they do skills assessment as well, they charge you extra. So that's up to you. So I had already done my assessment by myself before. There is a video which can guide you in how to do the assessment yourself if you want to. So you can have a look. And so I had to pay the professional fees that is there just for PR, or for them taking care of my PR. Now the government fees, or the fees that you need to pay to the Department of Home Affairs, your visa fees, etc. Now your visa fees, your primary applicant fees is around $4,115, and for secondary applicant it's around $2,060. Now for this also there could be some kind of an arrangement between your employer and yourself, like some percentage you have to give and other employer might give, or you might have to give the whole amount. It depends from employer to employer. Then there could be some kind of credit surcharge as well, around $8,600 that you might have to pay on this fees. Then the government fees, usually it's not taken from the employee. There is around 186 for for the nomination application. There is around $540. That is actually the government fees. Then there is the SAF levy fund, like I said, that's around $5,000. Usually even this fees is not taken from the employee. The company, they themselves pay this. So the total cost, like adding all of this, it could be around $16,000 to 20,000 Australian dollars, out of which your out-of-pocket costs could be anywhere close to $10,000, depending on what is the arrangement between you and your employer. In some cases, employers don't want to pay any of these fees. So like I said, it entirely depends on employer. But if they are willing to sponsor you and if they are willing to take you through this whole process, I think it's a good catch, because you could actually work out some arrangement with them where this could be debited from your salary, like in the coming in installments. Like that's what happened with me, at least. So the company paid all the amount altogether, and then this amount was gradually this amount is being gradually deducted from my salary in installments. Now this is a good point as well as a difference as compared to the points tested visas, because for points tested visas, for visa and all the other fees, you need to pay all the amount altogether. So if your employer is willing to offer you an installment pay in this category, it is a huge relief to your pocket, if you are gradually debited. So that's the difference here. And 186 visas may also have a contract. So it depends, like they may ask you to be with the employer for 2 years or 3 years, depending on how your employer wants. And they might work out a payment arrangement with you in this 2 years or 3 years span as well. So this is the cost breakdown for employer sponsored visas, and I have covered videos related to PR in Australia. Like migration is getting really it's really catching up in Australia. Their visas are being granted in quite some numbers. 189 also, there is huge number of visas that are being granted. Already 35,000 invitations were given last month, and the processing has also been made faster. So if you are interested in PR in Australia, you can check out my other videos that I have available in the playlist. And if this particular video was helpful, do share it with others and make sure to subscribe as well. Thank you so much for listening.
Content shared in this video is based on personal experience and research. If you enjoyed the video, like, share and subscribe. Keep watching, keep listening and continue learning.